But let's go to why we decided to change the name, Sticks. Let's dive into that. So it's a lot that goes into this, and I'm gonna let you talk
It's a
before
whole
I
lot.
talk, because you. But why did we decide to change? Well, we've kind of
Talked about
got
it a
to
little
that
bit.
point, but
Yeah.
ultimately, what was the reason for getting there and to changing our name?
I think that the name change, it's, to me, it was more so about, just like we said previously, bro. It was more so like, okay, we are smart. We do our own reading. We both got degrees. We both have experienced a lot of things in our lives. So we do have
Come back to the
wisdom
mic a little
beyond,
bit.
my fault. We do have wisdom beyond our years, right? But trying talking about how complex something is will give us a lot more content, a lot more information than trying to find how can we show what we would do or our wisdom in this situation, right? So part of my wisdom, as dope of a name as it is, you know what I'm saying, still is, it's still going to be for at least a little while longer. As dope of a name for the podcast as it is, too complex is going to be so much bigger in the grand scheme of things, because it gives us so much more of a spectrum of things to talk about. You know what I mean? So I think in my eyes, that's the reason that was my reason for wanting to say, okay, D, let's go ahead and do this shit, bro. I think it's a damn good idea. Let's go ahead and do it. What you think? What did you think was the reason for the
Yeah,
name change? Why we did it?
so I hinted at it earlier. It was just for me. It dawned on me, like I said, week 9 of the first season, our
Mm-hmm.
ninth episode. I was like, first off, we were trying to find topics to talk about that
Mm-hmm.
were within the wheelhouse of what we talk about,
Mm-hmm.
sports and entertainment. And it was tough to find something that wasn't like
Too
really y'all talking
complex.
right. Not well, not even
Real.
not even not even too complex. It was trying to find something that, like, we at the time, I think we all we had was Deion Sanders, which I think we did a whole
A
podcast.
whole episode about, yep,
Was
a
that
whole
9?
episode about him. That was
Yeah,
episode, I can tell you, but yeah, I think it was
yeah.
episode 9. Yep, I think it was 9.
The pickings for topics really was slim at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason is because, like Stick said, we were everything we talk about, we try to find the wisdom in it or give a wise take, and we did give some wise takes on it. If you look at what we said and then go to the horse's mouth, which is the actual person with that we had the conversation about, or the theme of the conversation, basically after the fact, what we said is something similar to what they said. Now, there was a lot of times where I was dead wrong. We were talking about this right before we got on the
Yeah,
air.
yeah, yeah.
Tom Brady retired this year. I said he wasn't going to retire to another
I
three,
said he
4 years.
was.
Yeah, you did. You right. You did.
Yeah,
I didn't.
yeah.
I said the Cavs weren't going to be that good. You said they were. It was a lot of times
Mm-hmm.
where I was wrong, but
Yeah,
it was a
yeah.
lot of times where I was right as
But
well, and
it was a
vice
lot of time I
versa.
was wrong too, and vice versa.
Right,
Yep.
and vice versa. So, and it's not to say that we don't want to be wrong, because there's plenty of times where we will be wrong, but
Mm-hmm.
it's easier to talk about or look at a topic and see the complexities than it is to share wisdom about it. And I'm a natural. This is probably gonna be taken the wrong way, but and it's I'll say pause preemptively. I'm a natural fence rider, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I can see both sides very easily.
You ain't say G about it, so it's cool.
But you gotta say it.
Yeah, yeah,
so I can see
yeah.
both sides very easily. And
Yeah.
so to me at that time, I'm like, yeah, we gotta find a different name. But let's go back even further, Sticks.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about the history of how we got to part of my wisdom.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. Start
So
it off.
that process was the name part of my wisdom
Hard.
came out of the nowhere, honestly.
It did.
So the podcasting space is very competitive and very saturated right now.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody and their mama has a podcast. And that was
Mm-hmm.
one of the jokes that I got from a lot of my friends that I don't talk to often, but talk to here and there. They're like, "Oh, another black man with a podcast, huh?" I'm like, "Hey, it is what it is. I want
It
to."
is what it is.
Me and my homeboy, it was going to be homeboys, but it ended up being just me and Sticks. We
Mm-hmm.
have a lot that we talk about on an ongoing basis, so we want to do it. We think it would be good, and we said in the first episode, it's something that was in the works for 7 years, and just
7 years, y'all. 7 years.
now we got to it. But long story short, finding a name for a podcast is tough because when you think you got a name, you go search it, it's gone. Oh shit!
Can't get
How is that? How did somebody come up with that name? You go search another name, same thing, gone. And just so happened one day I was listening to one of my favorite podcasts or network of podcasts, Earn Your Leisure, and I think it was Market Monday. And
it.
Rashad was talking about 19 Keys, who has his own podcast now as well.
Hmm.
And he was like, Keys says he always has a way with sayings. And one of his sayings was, instead of part my ignorance or something like that, he says part my wisdom. As soon as I heard that, I called Sticks and said, I got our name. It's
I
going
got
to
a
be
name.
part,
Yep.
it's part of my wisdom.
Yep. And I was
And
like, yo, that joint is fire. I think I fuck with that. And the crazy thing is we both I listen to EYL too. And I also listen to and I follow 19 Keys on social media and also follow him on Apple Podcasts too. And the crazy thing is I've never heard him say that. I've never
right.
heard him say part of my wisdom. Because it's like, part of my language or, part of my ignorance or whatever. But he was like, yo, part of my wisdom. Like, I was like, he said like D-Lo was like, yo, I was like, yo, damn, that's the name. That shit fire. Let's
Yeah.
go with it. Let's go with it. Yeah.
Yeah. And so from there we ran with it, right? Because it at the time, because we hadn't really put any information on wax or said anything on
Yeah.
YouTube or presented any of our thoughts and ideas or takes yet. So at the time it fit very well because we
Hmm.
were like, yeah, we two wise individuals. We do this and do that. Yeah, that name could work.
Hmm.
But as I mentioned, as we started going through the process of actually looking up information, looking up topics, and sharing it with you all on a week in, week out basis through this podcast, which
Hmm.
I felt like initially, okay, we're morphing away from that. We're turning into something else. And I
Hmm.
presented it to Sticks, and
Initially, I was like, nah, dog. I mean, I fuck with part of my wisdom. I think that's a dope ass name. That the audience fucks with it. Your friends fuck with it. My friends fuck with it. You know what I'm saying? Everybody who actually enjoys our content likes part of my wisdom.
yeah,
And just to go back to what D-Lo was saying, when we had so many ideas, we done put up polls on YouTube, we done put up polls on Instagram, Facebook,
yeah, we
trying to
was
figure
doing
out what
everything.
the people would like, right? And we just couldn't nail one down. Like I would like something, D-Lo wouldn't like it. D-Lo would like something, I'd be like, I don't really fuck with it like that. And then the moment he heard that from 19 Keys, he was like, yo, this is the name. And I was like, yeah,
Yeah,
that's the fucking name right there, bro. So
yeah,
it's like, bro, like you said, it's such a competitive market, man, that you got to find a name. The name itself is something that's very catamount to what you're doing as far as a podcast, because you want to have something that's catchy and something that's number one easily searchable, but number two rememberable.
right.
And as
And can have many
rememberable
different meanings as well.
can have many different meanings, because like Dilo alluded to earlier, it's a double entendre. Like too complex, but it's two individuals, and the topics that we talk about are too complex. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
With the
TOO.
TOO.
Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. So it's something that we feel like is going to be dope as hell. I'm getting butterflies right now talking about it because I'm ready for this shit. But it's like, bro, like it's the reason for that is because it gives us so many different avenues and so much more to talk about. Because if you've well, you haven't heard behind the scenes when me and D'Lo are talking about topics, but D'Lo would say something every single week. He would be like, "Yo, there's so many complexities to this damn topic. There's so many complex." His favorite word, I think, might be complexities. But,
Which we
but
learned that the younger generation. Nah, I ain't gonna go there. Never mind.
no, no,
Never
yeah,
mind.
don't go there. Yeah, we gonna get canceled. but D'Lo would say every time we're researching topics, D will be like, "Yo, it's so many complexities in this topic," and he would say it over and over and over again. And that's more than likely one of the reasons why D'Lo was like, "Yo, we might need to think about a rebrand, bro." Because just like D'Lo said, we were kind of staying within the part of my wisdom realm, but we were kind of moving away from what we started out as. So
Hmm.
doing this right now is probably the number one perfect timing, but it's going to be able to give us so much more content to bring y'all. It's going to be so fire. I can't wait, yo.
Yeah.
I
I
can't
mean,
wait.
it just gives us. Um. Dang, what I was about to say. Oh no, it's so. it's perfect timing because one, we are basically still in our infancy of the podcast
Mhm.
game, right? So if we were like year 5, year 10, this move wouldn't make any sense. This change wouldn't make any sense
True.
because like we've
No
already
sense at all.
established a base, a strong hardcore base. Hopefully we would have established a strong base at that time. And to them, it would be kind of puzzling. And again, as I mentioned earlier, for those that jumped on board early, we really do rock with y'all. We appreciate it. Um, but now because we don't have a strong following like that, I'm not saying that those that follow us now aren't strong, but it's just not a mass. The masses aren't there yet.
For sure.
But it makes perfect sense now because we did the trial and error last season, basically,
Mhm.
essentially, of figuring out where it is we want to go, and now from here on, it's just taking off with it. Taking that
Mhm.
idea, all the information we gathered last season, putting it into use, into the moon we go.
To the moon we go, bro.
Yeah.
So that's typically kind of why we did what we did. But
Yeah.
Dylan,
Well,
let's talk.
before
Go. My fault.
before we switch, the
My bad.
last
My
thing
bad.
I
I'm
want
jumping
to
the gun.
say, yeah, no, all good. The last thing I want to say is we also are just trying to ultimately we're just trying to find our way, or trying
Mhm.
to find our way and create our own lane in the podcasting game. Like we said, we're very aware that we are not Joe Button, and his crew. We know that we are not Joe Rogan and his podcast, or we're not
Drink champs
Drink
and them
Champs,
boys.
Nori and his boy. We're not Matt Barnes and Steven Jackson with all the smoke, Brandon Marshall with I Am.
Club
All
Shay
these
Shay. We're
people,
not them
Club
boys.
Shay
Yeah.
Shay, JJ Reddick, just to name a few. These are the people that we listen to. Um,
Mhm.
we know we're not these people that come in with the notoriety or the fanfare that instantly, as soon as you see their name attached to a podcast, like, okay, I gotta listen. Or
Mhm.
we're not that team that's gonna have these star-studded guests coming on just yet. That's not us. So we have to figure out, and what we're doing now is figuring out where we make our niche and where we can just snuggle on in there, right?
Yeah.
Get in there and just keep drawing people here and there until we are who they are, until we are Earn Your Leisure. And that's why I think we like Earn Your Leisure so much, because they were who we were 3 years ago. They were who we
3 years
were,
ago.
and now
They
they're
started from
one of the
ground
biggest
zero, man.
podcasts, one of the biggest podcast networks in the world. So
Mhm.
and it's all about calculation and knowing who you are and creating your brand, and that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to create a brand right now and run with it.
For sure. For sure.